Hi and welcome back to the channel. So today I thought I'd talk about the first rock and roll marathon series race I ever ran, which was in Philadelphia in September of 2018. Now, I'll start this off by saying I don't really know what the current status of the race is. I know they're not running it this year, and I know that they have announced that they are unable to run it next year. The wording, though, seemed kind of odd to me, almost like they just cannot run it next year. But it could also be that they simply are not going to be able to run that race ever again under their name. I don't know. But I'm still going to talk about it, and I'll save all my theories for what exactly is going on with some of the rock and roll marathon races for another video when I'm done talking about the rock and roll races that I've done. Now, number one, the rock and roll marathon races, the series, they make some of the best medals I've ever gotten. Everything is always very themed for the city, very well made, very colorful, so I highly recommend doing rock and roll races if you can. I know they've had some issues. That's another thing I'll get into in that other video, but I've never personally had a problem with them or one of their races, so, but I do recommend them. I like their medals a lot, and they also have a lot of programs that you can get free medals from, like their heavy metal program, where all you have to do is put in your name, address, email, all that, and you're registered for their heavy metal program, which, as you do if you do multiple rock and roll races through the year, you will end up receiving multiple medals, leading up to, I think the last one that they do is for the 10th race you've run. But if you do 15 or more, you get an additional big medal, and they call that their Hall of Fame. So, just another little nice thing they do so that you get a lot of bang for your buck because they have a lot of different payment programs so that you can pay for multiple races through the year, and you can do like package deals where you do like 3 or you do 6, or you just can do any you want, and then you can do international ones, and there's another medal that you can receive for doing international races. So there's a lot with their programs. And then sometimes they do, like if you do 2 races in the same calendar year, if they've made a special medal for that, you can receive that as well. So anyway, moving on to Philadelphia. So I'd been to Philadelphia at least one other time. No, I'd been there 2 other times. Once for a convention and once for a concert. And so we drove down to Philadelphia, went to the hotel, and the nice thing with rock and roll, a lot of other race websites do this as well, but rock and roll gives you a huge list of hotel suggestions, and they even give you like, okay, this is the distance from the start line, this is the distance from the finish line, this is the distance from the expo. So we went to the hotel and then walked over to the expo. It was actually the same convention center used for the convention we'd gone to a few years ago. So it was pretty much right across the street. Didn't take long to walk over and find it. Got in. They always have a lot of stuff for you to look at. You know, vendor tables. They have a huge spot sponsored by Brooks. You know, Brooks is like their sponsor with as far as like athletic shoes and sportswear. So you can get special T-shirts, you can get special running shorts, leggings, shoes, socks. You know, I have so many running socks from the different races I've done. They're designed for each race, and they're different every year. So, definitely something to look at if you enjoy, you know, being able to be proud to, you know, wear what you got for doing these races. And like they do course layouts on the back of some of them. The really cool thing is if you get if you sign up early enough, you can get your name in, so that it's actually, they print out all the names of the runners on the back, so you can find your name. They always have it, you know, like a big poster so that you can find your name. One for men, one for women, for each race distance that they do. Because pretty much all the rock and roll, you have your half marathons, your 5Ks, and your 10Ks. Occasionally you have your full marathons at some locations, and then sometimes they do other kind of obscure distances. Like I know last year, in 2019 for Philadelphia, I think they did like a 7.6 mile race because, you know, 1976 when the United States was founded. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, there's all that at the expo. Got the medal, or not the medal, we got my packet, went and had something to eat. Oh, too, they have like a special huge area where they do registration. So you can register for the heavy metal program or the international registrations, or registering for different races, or the packages, or whatever, you know, whatever you want to register for, you can do it right there. There are people to help you. You can do it on a tablet, or they can do it for you. So that's always really cool. They've got medals there to show you, you know, what the heavy medals look like for that year. They've got pictures from other race locations that they do. So there's a lot to do and see at those expos. So anyway, we went and had lunch, and then just kind of did a little bit around the city, you know, got on a bus tour so that we could see kind of the highlights of the city, because we'd never really, even though we'd been there, we'd never really seen the city, so that was pretty cool. One of the stops was actually right where the race was going to be starting, which is right in front of the, it's either library or museum there that, you know, Rocky runs up the stairs and does his little cheering himself at the top there. So that was one of the stops, and I thought that's really cool. I get to see, where Sylvester Stallone shot that scene and run up the stairs, see everything, and just know where I was supposed to be going the next morning for the race. Because that's the other really nice thing with rock and roll, like I said before. They give you the distance from the hotel to the start and finish line. So you can kind of plan for, okay, it'll take me X amount of time to get to the start. So I'll head out from the hotel at this time, etc. And then you can do your little warm-up run from the hotel to the start line. That's what I like to do when we do any of these races, and it's really nice that Rock and Roll actually gives you that on the website for finding your hotels. So, got done with that, went to bed, obviously. Got up the next morning, and I went and got to the start line. Now, I'm going to admit something now that I actually was going to do a video about back at the beginning of COVID, and then I saw some articles from Runner's World and how people were not very happy with them talking about this subject. So I decided against it and got thinking about it with everything going on, that it's really not a good idea. I had a cold when I ran in Philadelphia. I've never had a problem with running when I've had a cold. I think, like when I talked about Lake Placid, I had a cold for like a month that affected 3 different races. And I always find it very ironic that sometimes I actually run better when I have a cold. I don't know why, but that's what seems to have happened, at least at some of my 5Ks that I've done. Anyway, so it's not like in my experience, it's helped me get over the cold that much faster, but I know with the pandemic and everything currently going on, it's not a good idea to do that unless you are being very careful, staying as far away from people as you can so you're not passing on what you have, wearing a mask, etc. So, and I know now going forward from different things I've read, a lot of races are going to have it in their requirements that at least at the start line you're going to be wearing a mask, otherwise you're not going to be there. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out of the way. A friend of mine that is from Philly, I was talking back and forth with her, and I told her that I had a cold, and she told me not to run. I'm like, nah, I'll be fine. The reason I say this is because I was okay for the beginning of it, Like I said, we started in the boulevard there leading up to where the steps are, where Rocky, And, you see all the flags from all the different countries. That was really cool. And so you start out from there, and you kind of take a little tour around the city. I ended up running past where George Washington was when he was president. Only reason I know that is because of the tour that I was on. I don't think I would have known that otherwise. I would have just been like, oh, there's another kind of cool old-looking house, or old-looking building. So, just kind of did a little tour around the city. And then you kind of swing back to where the library, museum, whatever is. And there's a park that there's a little, like, lake kind of thing. Or, yeah. Well, I guess it's like a river, actually. But you got that. And there's a park that goes around it. So we came out around, here's the library. Here's where the river is. So, came around, and then you come back and finish in front. So, it's a nice little park. Very nice scenery, you know, with the river and everything. Lots of people out, you know, walking dogs, out for runs of their own, kind of like, oh, there's a race going on, oops, kind of thing. And it was really nice running around there. Problem was, the cold kind of started kicking in around while I was going around there, because at first I was like, oh, I'm doing great, I'm gonna, you know, get a new PR, whatever. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm kind of feeling stuffy, I'm feeling really hot, I'm sweating a lot, I'm getting tired. So ultimately, you know, it wasn't a bad time, but it was like an hour 56. But it, you know, it was a ways, like a couple minutes above one of my better times that I've had for a half. So I was kind of disappointed, but I finished. I enjoyed myself. And the nice thing with rock and roll, every water stop, because some races it's like maybe the first water stop is only water, you know, they kind of, or they alternate whether you have a choice between water and Gatorade. Rock and roll, it's always you can choose between water and Gatorade. There's never just water or just Gatorade. But they'll okay, I shouldn't quite say that, because they'll have signs letting you know, like, here's the water, there's the Gatorade, there's the gel. So, but the other thing is, because they are rock and roll, they have, you know, music along the way. Cool thing with them, they've got music actually coming out of the mile markers. They've got like speakers in the mile markers. I remember hearing Will Smith getting jiggy with it when I was running back toward the library, so that was pretty cool. I grew up on Will Smith, so. But they actually do have like live people along the way as well. So that's always really cool, seeing people. I don't remember specifically anything, because I've always got my own music going, but, you know, that'll drown out the music that I have. But I don't remember specifically anything that I heard. But they've got plenty of entertainment and plenty of things along the courses. So I highly recommend, if you can't do Philly, like if they're never doing this race again, I highly recommend at least doing one, if not more, Rock and Roll Marathon Series races at some point. You know, like I said, some people don't like them very much. They have their reasons, I understand. I'll get into some of that in the other video where I'm talking about my theories on why some of the races may or may not ever happen again. So, next week I'm going to talk about Arizona, the second rock and roll race that I did. So, look forward to that. And with that being said, if you liked the video, please hit like and comment below. It really helps me out. And otherwise, till next time, remember, we're in it for the long run. Peace and love.